Hi, my name is Hermann Kroll, and today I want to talk about modeling narrative structures and logical overlays on top of knowledge repositories. This is a joint work with Dennis Nagel and Wolf Thilo Balke. So today, knowledge is distributed in several different types of knowledge repositories. So there are knowledge graphs, there are data sets, there are document collections, and there are many more different types of knowledge repositories. Each knowledge repository or each type has a specific use case and application. So for example, knowledge graphs are large collections of facts, while data sets contain experimental data, for example. And one dream today is to integrate these different types of knowledge repositories into a single knowledge base. But I believe that this is a nearly impossible task, because if we have a closer look at a scientific argumentation, for example, then authors always mention important context conditions for experiments. So, for example, if they observe some events, then they explain them with context conditions and some inclusion or exclusion criteria, which are important to validate their argumentation. And if we think about such argumentations and this dynamic behavior, so events which might be observed but are not observed in any case, then this is a really, really hard task to integrate all of these different types of knowledge repositories into a single knowledge base. So instead of integrating all into one, we argue that users should share their knowledge and within scientific narrative. So what is in scientific narrative? A scientific narrative is a story, or more precisely, an argumentation in which knowledge is shared. We have factual knowledge. So factual knowledge means to talk about properties, types, natural laws, so basically facts. We have events. Events are a very, very broad topic. So an event might be a labeled state or a change of state. So something which can be observed, which happens, or which is a condition which must be true. So events are important to model the narrative structure of your argumentation. And the last thing are narrative relations, because narrative relations form the basic structure. So narrative relations arrange events into some order. So for example, event A happens always before event B, or event A is the cause of event B, or the factual knowledge is the explanation that some event can be observed. So these are all narrative relations. And with this single model, narratives feature strong links to factual knowledge on the one side, as well as support actual and dynamic context within a single model. Now, a user can use our model to formulate his kind of scientific narrative in a single model, and then might say, okay, on the left side, I have some factual knowledge, and this is the explanation that an effect occurs, or that, for example, some mechanism is executed. So you can basically form the argumentational structure here in a narrative. And now users might ask if a narrative is true or not, or correct or not, and therefore we design narrative bindings. So a user can formulate the basic argumentation in a narrative and then take different relations in the narrative and bind it against knowledge repositories. So, for example, factual knowledge might be bound against a knowledge graph. There might be temporal or causal relations which are observed in a study or clinical trial, and then the user can say, okay, I have evidence about this relation in a document, or maybe we have some causal effect, and we can say, okay, there's a data set which has a high correlation, and because of this high correlation, we assume that there's a causal mechanism behind our narrative. And so a user can bind his designed narrative against different knowledge repositories. So to say it clear, instead of integrating all different knowledge repositories into a single one, we argue to keep the sources separated and to design a narrative as a logical overlay and bind your narrative against these different kinds of repositories. So thank you for your attention, and if you have any questions, you can contact me via mail or on Twitter. Bye.